why there's always so many people in the West still worry about China becoming powerful and somehow taking over the world. As a Chinese person, I see this as fundamentally a question of cultural DNA and psychology. There's countless times my Western friends often ask me, do you think China will become a threat? Well, it's trying to expand and take over the world. I always tell them that expansion and war just aren't part of China's cultural mindset. If they were, world history would look completely different today. Think about it. China has been around 5,000 years. Yes, we've been through a lot of wars and dynasty changes. And sure, we might know about a thing or two about warfare. That's where art of war came from. But going through all of that actually taught us something important. When you hurt others, you end up hurting yourself too. War has always been our absolute last solution. Let me share a really interesting piece of history. About 600 years ago, China had an Admiral Zheng He. He landing this massive fleet. We are taking more than 300 ships and 27,000 crew members. It was almost 100 years before Columbus, and his fleet was way bigger than any in Europe had back then. He visited over 30 countries with the most advanced ship and technology at that time. But here's what's fascinating. He never tried to conquer or colonize anyone. Instead, he just brought gifts, even helped solve local conflicts and build relationships. And he did it 7 times, and not once he tried to intend to start any war. So if China really wanted to colonize places, wouldn't it have made sense to do back then? Here is something really fundamental. In our culture, there's always a thought, even a powerful nation will fall if it loves war. And our Great Wall was built for defense, not attack. So I think this is really fundamental things here. And funny thing is, China is still doing similar things today. Help build railways in Africa with infrastructure, like helping with the developing country around. They are still doing this. And all our military development, everything is out of defense, not to start a war. So this is just not part of cultural DNA. When I think about Westerner worry about China's rise, it makes me think about projection. It often seems like they were looking at us through their own historical lens. It's like when you were worried about someone, sometimes you were just projecting your own thoughts onto them. Throughout our history, there has been this really important idea in Chinese culture. The people are like water, and the ruler is like boat. Water can carry a boat, but it can also flip it over. After thousands of years, our leaders and government have learned this lesson well. If they not, they will. There's 3 deep ingrained philosophy in our culture. One is Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism. They are all emphasis on being harmony with the world, be harmony with the nature, and that's just the very core of our philosophy. Here, I'm not saying China is perfect, just like no one is perfect. Every country has its own challenges to face. But this challenge is part of growth, where on individual level or a collective one. More often than not, our fears and reactions towards outside world are simply a projection of ourselves. True growth begins with recognizing this. We grow through pain and joy, we fall and rise again, and through continuous action, we reshape our reality. And in this journey, our shared goal, both as individuals, as a collective, is to find our connections to the world. At the end of the day, each of us is just a small part of this world. There's always better option than conflict. And we will really understand this. We can all work together to make things better. And yeah, this is what I thought. I will be sharing more thoughts about Chinese and Western culture in my future videos, including an interesting intake on Chinese culture on the astrological perspective. So stay tuned if you are interested.